Okay, so conventional wisdom says if you wish to get to know a young lady, meet her mother. Conventional bartending wisdom says if you wish to get to know a distilled spirit, make an old-fashioned. Well, today we're going to get to know the oldest American spirit. And no, it's not bourbon, it's not rye whiskey. It's actually Applejack, which I've never had before. So let's check it out. Today's recipe comes to us from Regarding Cocktails by Sasha Petraske, and is one of the only split-base recipes from the book, meaning the core distilled spirit, typically around 2 ounces in most drink recipes, is divided evenly between 2 different spirits instead of only 1. To build the drink, start with a frozen rocks glass, and to that add 1 brown sugar cube, which, as I've said in other videos, you should note doesn't mean refined brown sugar or white sugar with molasses added back into it, but rather a raw or unrefined sugar cube made from either demerara or turbinado sugar. To this, add 4 good dashes of Regan's orange bitters, which makes the first of our trilogy of American ingredients, and then add a small splash of soda water and muddle everything together so that the sugar cube is broken down and partially dissolved. To this, add 1 ounce of American straight apple brandy, or Applejack, followed by 1 ounce of American rye whiskey. To chill and dilute the cocktail, add a single large rock of ice and stir for about a minute or so. Old Fashions, as a rule, are more spirit-forward and should be silky smooth in texture. Stirring keeps the texture the way we want, and using a single large ice cube keeps the flavor front and center by not adding too much water. For the final flavor component, cut a nice large orange peel, squeezing some of its orange oil out over the drink, and wiping some on the sides of the glass before tucking it down beside the ice cube. And that is the American Trilogy. Okay, so like I said, I've never had Applejack before. I've never had the bonded kind or the somewhat more available blended kind. I'm pretty excited to give this a taste because it smells incredible. The history's pretty cool. I'm going to shut up and dive straight in. Cheers. I just need to sit with that for a second. Okay, first off, it is so proof heavy. It is not an easygoing old-fashioned. There is so much alcohol in this glass because I'm using 2 bonded spirits, which if you're unfamiliar with the bottled and bond label, it means it's at least 4 years old, aged in a bonded warehouse, and has to be exactly 100 proof. So both the whiskey and the Applejack are 50% ABV, which means this thing packs a bit of a punch, which, don't get me wrong, I really like. I'm gonna go in for a second sip because that first one kind of slapped me around a little bit, and I'm not quite sure what I'm tasting. Maybe this time I'll have better notes. Okay, I can definitively say it is unlike any spirit I've ever tasted. I don't always do this, but I'm gonna get a separate glass and try some of this Applejack straight. Just a little splash. So it smells like sweet apples on the nose. Oh man, but that does not taste like apple. That is not the flavor that I would not have guessed this was from apple. I mean, I don't know, now that I'm saying it, I feel like I've got a mental association with that flavor, so I feel like I'm tasting it, but in a vacuum, I don't know. There it is on the end. Okay. Kind of a perfumey, apple skin, floral kind of flavor. It is there. It's a really interesting candy apple finish. To start out with, first of all, it's really dry. The aroma would not tell you that it has that little sugar in it, but it is not sweet. You know, some bourbons are pretty sweet. You know, there's a significant amount of sugar in there, or even some Irish whiskeys, but this is dry as a bone. There is no sweetness. And yeah, the apple finish is on the end. After you swallowed, give it 3 to 5 seconds, and just like candy apple flavor. It's really interesting. So going back to the old fashioned. Okay, so this old fashioned really cuts down the spice from the rye. It's really interesting, but the Applejack is removing some of that just punch you in the tongue rye spice and attitude. And it's more bitter. And I know I added an extra dash of bitters, but it's a different kind of bitter. Like, I know what Regan's tastes like. This is a different spectrum, and it's the same thing I was tasting in this glass. The Applejack has it's not astringent, but it has kind of this bitter, it's hard to describe. It's not like an oak tannin kind of flavor. It's just it's different. Personally, I think it needs more sugar to bring the flavor out, because it just feels like kind of this bitter, generic whiskey type flavor, but there's nothing really popping. You know, there's nothing, like, it's not bringing, I'm having trouble. It's not bringing up, you know, flavor associations. Like, you drink a bourbon and you say, oh, that tastes like cherry and tastes like brown sugar. Or, you know, you drink Irish whiskey and you're like, oh, it's shortbread cookie. This is not doing that. And I think it's a sugar level issue. So I'm going to add a little bit of simple syrup to it and see if I can maybe bring the flavors out a bit more. We're going to do a bar spoon, so half a teaspoon. Right, that should be mixed in just fine. And you know, it's crazy, even though this ice cube has melted a significant amount, this is still doesn't taste watery because of the amount of proof in both the Applejack and the whiskey. Let's try this. Well, that's more the sugar level that I like to have in an old fashioned, I mean, first of all. Secondly, it definitely tastes a lot more appley, which is kind of what I was expecting. You put more sugar in and it's going to bring out more of those flavors. So this being the first time that I've tried Applejack, I mean, I had to order this stuff in from frickin' Connecticut. And so in this moment, I'm feeling a little bit disappointed, to be perfectly honest. I was expecting like earth-shattering, incredible flavor, and I don't know, maybe there's a reason why Applejack is not a hugely popular thing. In the grand scheme of things, I think this is more a novelty old-fashioned for me. It's not that enjoyable. But then again, I like things on the sweeter side of the spectrum. So maybe for somebody who really doesn't like sweet cocktails, who doesn't prefer their old-fashioned to be on the sweeter side, maybe they would like this a bit more. I suppose if you changed up your rye whiskey, it would change this a significant amount. But I don't think you want to go less than 100 proof. I would go equal to or greater proof on your rye whiskey in this cocktail, just because I don't think the Applejack is bringing a huge amount of flavor to this cocktail. It's bringing subtle kind of tail end background flavors, but I think you want the rye spice to be front and center. Okay, damn it, now it's growing on me.